Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the one and only show? Live from Houston, Texas. It's the go-to girl. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the one and only show? Live from Houston, Texas. It's the go-to girl, professional comedian, TV producer, and founder of Marridate.com. It's millionaire matchmaker, Amber.
Hey guys, welcome into the all-new Matchmaker Hotline here on Edge Radio. It's your girl, Millionaire Matchmaker, Amber Neal. We are live on 101.7 FM, 1540 AM. Today is Money Monday. It is also Marridate Monday and Meme Monday. So I like to go over some really fun memes that I've come up with. What we're going to do today is we want you to call into the hotline 281-587-1540. Join us on the show. We're going to be having several great conversations because you guys are wilding out during the quarantine, okay? The divorce rate has really gone through the roof. It has more than doubled in requests from divorce attorneys, and it is just crazy. So today we're going to give you 23 damn good tips on how you can try
damn good
tips on how you can try to get your life, get it together, and y'all quit wilding out there. So at Marridate, we're here to cure the divorce rate. But joining me on the show today, what can I say about him? He is one of Houston's top 10 most eligible bachelors. He is a total package. He has so many great things going on. Let's welcome into the show the one and only Oscar Hines.
Well, thank you so much for having me here.
As
an eligible bachelor, I'd just like to say.
And if you want to meet Oscar, call into the hotline and we'll filter that too today. 281-587-1540.
Oh my gosh. I am starting to feel like I have just been auctioned off. I'm being put on the auctioning block anyway. Just don't check my teeth. I don't know.
He wants to check your tongue. Guys.
Yeah, I was just don't look a gift horse in the mouth, right?
Tell us about you, Oscar.
Oh my gosh. There is something that I would like to encourage people to check out tomorrow. I am excited about. I will be interviewed by Dr. George C. Frazier tomorrow.
Wow,
and nice. I can't wait for that. It is going to be on the Power Networking podcast. He has followers all over the world, and I will be featured this coming. I think it's now been changed to October, and you'll get more information on that. I'll be featured as one of the speakers. But, something, Amber, that I don't often talk about, and I think since you've got me on the hot seat, let me beat my chest a little bit, girl.
That's what we're here for today.
So I have started, I wrote a book a few years ago called Ninja Communications, The Art and Science of Influence. And that's what Dr. Frazier will be interviewing me about on this topic. But, the subject of communications for me is really huge. And I started out as a kid not even speaking this language right. I had this crazy accent. People were making fun of me. They were like, "You talk funny." I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't talk funny. Porque dice yo hablar con funny." I'm talking Spanish, Jamaican, some kind of Spangler. I don't even know what that is. Spangler-Macon. What the hell is that? Yeah, it's like some Jamaican Spanish thing. And so I actually kind of got indoctrinated into this whole thing that I was not communicating well. So I started studying the King's English, and I decided to master the King's English. I was the only kid listening to, Johnny Carson and all of these, John Liddy and these incredible elocutionists, when I was a kid. But it taught me how to really communicate. And then I expanded that by learning more about the nuances of communication, the body language and the body chemistry, and eventually got involved in wellness. So my evolution to this point has been sort of moving through these different areas of learning how communication works. And I particularly like communication with the opposite sex. I've always been, a lover of women, not a player per se, but a lover of what women represent, because you guys are the nurturing energy. You tend to give of yourself before you take. And that's just, not every woman is like that, but a lot of women are. And my mom was certainly a great example to us of someone who was tirelessly giving on our behalf. And so I learned to appreciate women from that standpoint as well. But so my journey really has been kind of an interesting one as it pertains to just understanding the dynamics and nuances, of communication. And now in this time that I'm in, I'm not in any rush. I feel like the right one will come along, and when she does, I'll know. I'm looking for my final dance partner, and that'll happen.
Oh, you didn't mention that part.
Oh, she's got to dance.
Oh yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
Oscar's serious about that life.
Oh, you got to dance, man. No, not even if we're like we don't have to be clubbing. So let me clarify. I want to make sure people. I'm a salsa dancer, and I had some friends on a few weeks ago. There's an art and a beauty to salsa dancing. There's some subtleties and sensuality to it. So to me, it's a whole other form of communication, and probably one of the best forms of foreplay you can have before.
Seriously.
Amen.
I'll be the woman to tell you, women judge a man by a few things: their hands, their feet, and how they can dance. Okay.
Ooh. Well, let me see here. Okay.
and as it turns out, it has nothing to do with any of those. Maybe the dancing, right?
It's the motion in the ocean, mommy. Damn Skippy.
Seriously.
Yeah.
What if she can't dance? Are you willing to teach?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. No, see the beauty about most women, I very seldom run into a woman that says, I just will not dance with you. Like they'll say, I can't dance, I don't know how. And I'm like, well, we can work on that part. But just the willingness, right? Because I've met people, and mostly these are female acquaintances that I've had who loved to dance, and they were told by their fiancés or whomever, I don't know, I don't want to dance. I don't want to dance ever. And I told them, I said, your marriage is going to fail.
Yeah. Seriously.
If you don't have a husband that's at least willing to try, and you love it, that's hard.
I'm real shy and introverted. A lot of people don't know this about me, Oscar, but everybody has their little rebound person after they get divorced. And for me, my guy was, shout out to Ivan. He was a Dominican guy, and like every Thursday night he wanted to go dancing, and I'm like, dude, I cannot dance at all. He's like, I got you, just come on. I have to admit, that was absolutely the funnest. I actually got to where like I was nervous to go, and then I was like, oh yeah, let's do this. You got this.
That's right, exactly. No, you're right. Yeah.
But I love it. But that's the thing about it, is try some things new. I mean, like how small-minded, like what a small universe you got to live in if you think it's just whatever you know.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I think that's one of the things that people say when they pass away. It's like, or on their deathbed, it's like, dude, I didn't live. I didn't do all the things I wanted to do. And it's like, so many times I tell people the only emotion stronger than fear is regret.
Yeah.
You're right. Well, let's do this, Oscar. Since you are on the hot seat today as one of Houston's top 10 most eligible bachelors, let's change this up a little bit. So in the second part of the show, we'll talk about the 23 damn good tips for you guys in quarantine to stay together. Let's give out the hotline number real quick, 281-587-1540. If you want to be part of the conversation, call us on the hotline. Marridate.com has some gifts for you if you do join us on the show today. And hey, Stephen, hey, Errol, a lot of people tuning in. You guys also can watch in studio live on our Facebook page. Go there now and you can watch us in studio, or you can watch us here on my page. Okay, so let's talk about what I like to do. There's different styles, just like you go to a doctor. There's different styles of treatment or bedside manner. There's different, methodologies. And as matchmakers, the same is true, right? You have people that actually learn how to be a matchmaker and go to school for it and go to an institute and learn it. Myself, my mom is a matchmaker. I'm a matchmaker. My daughter's a matchmaker. We're empath matchmakers. So it's like, and for those of you who don't know what an empath is, it's like your discernment's on steroids. Yeah. Is that a good way to?
Yeah, you can feel them. It's I call it, because I'm empathic, and I call it, my tagline is social intelligence amplified.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of people, when you're an empath, you recognize another one. You're like, oh yeah. But one of the things, before we jump into the article real quick, Tell us a little bit about, you specifically touched on that. I know you've written a book. I know that you're a speaker. You're always about teaching the art of communication and body language. How real is energy?
Oh my gosh, energy is everything. Yeah. Energy is the thing we don't notice, but the thing that's most important when you walk into a room. I am a firm believer, and I do a demonstration on stage, and, the social distancing thing knocks out a lot of this stuff. But I would bring a volunteer on stage, and I literally, without touching them, and I remember I was doing this when I was on stage with Les Brown. This guy was about 6'4". He was huge, kind of big arms. And I was like, oh man, I need a volunteer. And this guy goes, and no one else is volunteering on anyone. Is there anyone here that wants to volunteer? This guy's like, no, me. Like, okay, the big guy in the middle that's about to embarrass the hell out of me on stage, right? So I bring the guy up. And I tell him, I said, okay, just take a deep breath, and I kind of center his energy. I'm feeling him because I do an energy transference to show people that all of us are energy based. And from 13 feet away, you can effectively influence how someone's strength is, their weakness, their emotions, if you know how to become intentional about that. So I bring this guy up on stage, and I have him hold his arm up. He holds it in front of him, and I try to push it down. It's what we call a kinesiology test. And I can't move the guy. And everyone's like, oh, okay, no, that's no surprise. The guy's built like a truck. So then I do the same thing. I kind of reach out, and I moved him, and I felt it. I can feel it when I move someone. And then I said, okay, now I want you to embarrass me in front of all these people. Try to stop me. And whoop, I push him right down. And he's like, what? I said, try it again. Come on, really try. And he's like, what is that? And what just happened? And I said, did I get stronger or did you get weaker? He said, it feels like I got weaker.
Yeah.
And I said, that's exactly what happened, because everybody has a energy that they emit, a frequency that they emit. And this is not hocus pocus. This is science. There's a frequency that you emit. So my intentions can change your physiology. So if I intend, for an example, and my son is a martial artist, he's a black belt.
Oh, wow.
And I remember teaching him this when he was younger. I said, you can remove someone's strength. And he starts telling me about his first tournament, and he's like, Dad, I was doing what you said. I visualized the energy, the power of that guy going down into the ground and coming up into me. And then I struck him, and I almost broke him in half. And I was like, oh my God, don't kill him. And he was bigger than me, Dad. I'm like, okay, don't hurt anyone. You have to use your powers for good, not evil.
Yeah, seriously.
But in effect, we do have an effect on someone energetically when we just walk in a room. Our enthusiasm, everything. People say, oh, you've got a contagious personality. That's not just how they're acting. That's the energy that they're emitting. And
Yes.
you can measure this. There are actual Kirlian photography. There's actual photography that films auras. Wow. And you can see it around someone. So how important is energy? Energy is everything. When you meet someone, and even like you mentioned dancing, you're exchanging energy. Not just like what we consider rah-rah. I'm talking about a vibrational frequency that resonates with someone, and they vibrate back. And then you start this communication of vibration. And that's the synchronicity that is underneath the surface of what we might call chemistry.
Wow. And people, when you're a matchmaker or a therapist or an expert in communications, sometimes it can be more challenging, and it make it harder to be, you stay single longer because you're reading things that they're not telling you. Most people think they can hide all that energy. Mm-hmm. One of the things that, depending on spiritually how you believe, a lot of people say that people have spirits on them, or demons or dark energy, or however you want to look at that.
Yeah.
But and that it's really important not to just have casual sex with everyone because of that reason. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I can tell you from personal experience, and if people don't believe this, they need to widen their perspectives. People can have negative energy. You can call it a demonic spirit. You can call it, different things depending on your paradigm. But there are parasites that are all around us, energy vampires that'll suck us dry. And I was at a place, it was an outdoor venue. In fact, it was Jones Plaza downtown. And it was an open salsa dance event. I was sitting down with some friends, and this woman came behind me, did not know her. And she took her finger and she put it in the middle of my head and pushed down.
What?
Yeah, just did not know her. I'm sitting. I'm sitting down. She's walking on like. And when she did that, I literally felt this infusion of this evil presence that was trying to infiltrate me. Wow. I was like, whoa! I turned around and I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "What?" Tried to act all flirt. I said, "Don't do that, SHI with me." I said, "Do not try to put anything on or in me." And she was like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I felt that. Just so you know, I felt that."
Yeah.
And I really looked at her like, I will kick your ass. Because what people have the ability to do with this negative juju, this negative energy, is weigh you down. And you have to really be careful, because there are individuals that are out there that have occultist powers. I personally, when I see it, when I recognize it, I put up a force field, so to speak. You can do that, and those wondering how to do it energetically. So a lot of people, and I have to give a little bit of perspective here. So I used to do energy healing. And when I did energy healing, one of the things that I learned through being certified in cranial sacral therapy, in matrix energetics, and these are like kind of forms of Reiki for those who aren't familiar, but you can shift and move people's energy. And whenever I'm about to work, or I used to, I don't do it anymore, but when I was about to work on someone, I made the mistake a few times of not grounding my energy. You literally have to take a few minutes to ground your energy, to almost visualize roots down into the ground. And you visualize that, and then you visualize this protective energy that comes over you so that you don't absorb their negative energy. Mm-hmm. Now, what does that all mean? That all sounds like witchy woo-woo stuff. Well, the real life situation was that I was working on someone that started having all these physical things happen to their body. As it was happening to them, it was being transmitted to me. So next thing I know, my neck starts to cramp up, and I'm getting a dry cough and a tick in my throat, and I'm feeling a headache and a little nauseous. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? When I finally let go of this woman, she was like, "Oh my God, that was amazing. I started getting a crick in my neck, and I got a headache, and my nose started running." She described my symptoms. Wow. Everything I was experiencing, it was being mirrored from her. And it was the most poignant example that I had at that time of how energy transference can work in a negative way. And so what I implore people to do is that it's not an accident when you sense somebody that you're like, something's not cool about their energy. Yeah. That first little intuitive sense is a whisper. You're normally not going to get intuition as a yell or a roar. Right. You're not going to get hit by...
Hey, stupid.
Yeah, exactly. You're not getting hit on the side of the head by a 2x4.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is it's a whisper. It's a feeling. Now, once you have that feeling, now observe other things. Now start looking at other things you wouldn't look at, the body language, the way that they're positioning themselves. Maybe if you can glance at their handwriting, and I teach all this stuff in my book, what it says, yeah. So those energies are really important to pick up. What is the name of your book? It's called Ninja Communications, The Art and Science of Influence. People can find it on Amazon. You can go to Amazon and you'll see me on the cover, or just go to my website. It's OscarHines.com, and you can pick it up right there.
Wow, so much. I can only imagine when you're the one healing and you're the one that's identifying the energy issues, because that's my thing with casual sex. I mean, people do whatever they want to do, but if you're looking for monogamy, I think that your casual sex can be tricky. You know, I think that it kind of puts that energy in different places. You think that confuses the universe when you're like, okay, I definitely want to get married.
Yeah.
But I'm out here wilding.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more concerned. I should phrase it a little bit differently. I think there's a greater danger for a woman having casual sex than a man having casual sex. So what about prostitutes? Prostitutes, they shut a part of themselves off, and they just turn that part of themselves off when they're exposing themselves to a man's energy that's inside of them. Because when someone enters into your physical body, you are taking on a host, and that host can affect your energy. There's no question about it. Now, chemically speaking, because we can look at it from a chemical standpoint as well, a woman, whenever she's intimate with her child, she's releasing oxytocin and vasopressin. These are the love hormones. Well, you know, you bond. You feel this sense of bonding with your baby, and that's a safety mechanism. So when the little booger is crying at 3 a.m, you don't throw him outside. So
have a wall with your name on it.
That's right. That's right. So a woman has more of those hormones than a man does.
Yeah.
Now, when a man is intimate with a woman and she's feeling this guy, she's emitting vasopressin, she's emitting oxytocin, she's bonding to this guy. And if this guy is just like, man, let me get off here because I want to go eat a hamburger, you know, she may be left with this feeling of not only being used, but this void and almost a longing and a desire for this person. And there's a feeling, and that's why you'll hear women say, gosh, you know, you guys have no feeling. Well, they do and they don't. They just don't have as much as you do as a woman. So yeah, I think that casual sex is very dangerous, especially for women. And if that woman is at a place in her life where she's looking for connection and a relationship and not just the physical outlet.
Well, what I'm going to say may be over a lot of people's heads, but you know, speaking of energy and levels to spirituality, do you think that, like, let's say that you're in a toxic relationship and they have such horrible energy, right? Mm-hmm. And you've been with that person all that time. Do you think that still feeling their presence or their thoughts or whatever is because you've connected with them on that spiritual realm?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, there are parts of them that you liked. You know, yeah. I mean, even the toxic ones, there's, you know, why do people smoke cigarettes? Well, you know, hell, we know it kills you. But yeah. Man, you know, there's this relaxing feeling you get when 3,000, you know, chemicals from that cigarette starts to relax you and or pump you up, and the nicotine gets you. So in other words, with almost every negative habit, there's an upside. Yeah. With almost every negative relationship, and I can speak for men, especially with women that are a little mentally off sometimes, they're wildcats in bed.
I was going to say,
and you know, we're like, wow.
I saw an article on that women, the study said the better sex is with crazy women.
Yeah. You hate to, you know, I'm just telling you, you hate to admit it, but yeah. And a part of why I think that happens. Yeah. Well, you know, a part of why I think that happens is that somebody who has those types of sort of emotional swings are also very intense emotionally.
Right.
And they also tend to give it all because that's all they know. They know on and off.
Yeah.
And so when you have someone like that and you've got that sexual chemistry, it's intense because there are no boundaries. And for a man, he wants a bad girl in bed. He wants, you know. That's a part of the drill. Freak in the bed,
or a freak in the streets if you can get away with it.
Yeah. Well, no, we want you to be a lady in the streets so that we can pretend you're a vestal virgin.
With your man.
Then we get you home, and then it's wild style.
The beast comes out.
The beast comes out. Absolutely, man. Come here, baby. Pop out.
I just think people need to really take energy more serious.
Yeah.
And people don't really just realize how you are connecting yourself with people, their whole energy and their spiritual world, and how there is energy out here that is not good, and you definitely don't want that on you. And it's so funny, I think, not funny, but ironic how many people, especially women, will get into these toxic relationships, specifically with men that turn out to be abusive.
Yeah.
That is something very serious. The domestic violence rate has even gone up through quarantine as well. And so that is an energy that that is when somebody has some dark energy in their soul.
Yeah.
I mean, that you would take it to that level. Do you have any advice for women that are leaving domestic violence situations, how to clear their energy and get rid of that negative stuff?
So, man, that's a question on so many levels,
Right.
and such a good one. But I wanted to, before I answer that completely, I wanted to just touch on a taboo part of that same question.
Okay.
That I'm going to probably get some flack over for some people that might say, no, that's not it. Remember, we're talking about the good side to some of those toxic relationships. Mm-hmm. A woman has an inherent desire to be wanted.
Amen.
If I could want you, if I could be hungry for you, if I would just destroy and rip everything apart because I want to get you so bad, like you make me crazy. Yeah. Now all of a sudden that turns you on. You're like, oh my God, this man's about to fight a war for my sexy ass. Oh man, give it, baby. And all of a sudden that's turning you on. Mm-hmm. I hate to say this, ladies, and please don't misconstrue, but that element, that little psychological piece, mm-hmm. there's something about an abuser that exudes that energy, mm-hmm. because he wants to control things at such a level, mm-hmm. that you're mine, you're all mine. I want you for myself. Yeah. And there's a weird, sick kind of sexy aspect to that.
Oh, I get it. It's the extreme of being wanted.
Yeah, it's the absolute extreme.
Wow.
And it's going to release endorphins. Mm-hmm. It's going to release the excitement hormones. That's going to basically turn you on a little bit.
Yeah.
Which sounds...
At first.
Yeah, at first. And maybe even a little bit later, because you got these crazy guys that'll be like, I didn't mean to hit you earlier, baby. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Just come here. Just don't do that again. And then all of a sudden...
It's your fault, of course.
Right. And then the woman starts feeling guilty. She's like, okay, I shouldn't do that anymore. And I'm sorry. And I'll take you back. And before you know it, that pattern is established, and there's this psychotic, sick piece. So I wanted to bring that out, because if a woman, especially, it could happen with a man too, but being abused. But if a woman doesn't understand that dynamic, then she's going to have a hell of a time detoxing from that relationship. Because what you have to do when you detox, when you finally cut the cord, so to speak, is you've got to take all of the sum total of how damaging that person was to your life, mm-hmm. and you've got to really be clear on your why. Your why is because I don't want to end up on the streets with broken teeth. Your why is because I'm tired of being told that I'm nothing when I know how valuable I am, and on and on and on. So you've got to have an arsenal of whys to offset those moments where you feel a sense of loss, because there was a tenderness at times. There was a desire that was insatiable, that burned in this guy, mm-hmm. that turned you on. Mm-hmm. And you've got to get to a place where, hey man, I am not addicted to that kind of heroin or crack, because it is going to kill me if I stay with this madman.
And 70% of women that do get killed after they leave, when they're on the run. One thing I do want to talk about real quick before we go into break is a trauma bond. A lot of times women go through these domestic violence situations and they still feel attached to their abuser. Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, because you're at a heightened emotional state. When you go through trauma, when you go through yelling and screaming, or you go through some tragedy together that you both came out the other side of, you bond around that because you're at a heightened emotional state. And that fools us into thinking that we have some kind of kismet, some kind of bond that is now unbreakable, because, like for an example, you have people that have the death of a parent.
Between the ages of 0 and 5, a child's mind is very impressionable. Researchers call it the theta brainwave. This low frequency is the state of consciousness between the...
You guys, be part of the hotline. Be part of the show today. 281-587-1540. We've got some great prizes for you if you do. We'll be right back in about 2 minutes. Stay tuned.
Between the ages of 0 and 5, a child's mind is very impressionable. Researchers call it the theta brainwave. This low frequency is the state of consciousness between the conscious and subconscious worlds. In this state, the mind is capable of deep and profound learning, healing, and growth. There is a subconscious loop that's created during these early years. Who you believe you are has been downloaded based on experiences that you have had. A bad experience could create fears and limitations. Do you love who you are? Do you believe in yourself? The reality is that you can't control your childhood. All you can do is interpret it. You can choose to see your good and your value. Try this experiment. Project forward. See yourself at 80 years old. Now you have lived a lifetime. What advice would you have for your younger self? What risks would you have taken? What relationships would you have avoided? Did you celebrate life? Did you allow yourself to feel, to be present? Your 80-year-old self would tell you to not live in fear, to have faith that things will work out, that all you have to do is persist until you succeed. Your 80-year-old self would tell you to stay healthy, to take care of your body. And it would ultimately tell you to share your gifts with the world.
Into the all-new Matchmaker Hotline. It's your girl, millionaire matchmaker, Amber Neal. We are live on Edge Radio at 101.7 FM, 1540 AM. Today in studio, talking to one of Houston's top 10 most eligible bachelors is Oscar Hines. He's an author, he's a speaker, and he is also in radio. So he is an entertainer. He is amazing to talk to because he has so much good stuff to say. Welcome back to the show, Oscar.
How much do I owe you?
Cash out. And guys, if you are listening, join us. Call into the studio, 281-587-1540. If you want to meet Oscar or you want to talk about, if you want to chime in, if you have questions, what we're talking about today. When we were leaving, we were talking about trauma bonds. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like you really had a time to really elaborate on that. So I'm going to turn it back around for you, Oscar.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of times when there is trauma, we're in a heightened emotional state. And because of that heightened emotional state, we bond. We bond around tragedy. If you think about most people that have gone through something traumatic, they needed someone to support them. Yeah. And even if you have an abusive situation, that abusive individual can still be a source of support. And when that connection happens, it makes you feel like, now I can't leave because now, we've been through this thing together. We slayed this dragon or whatever. And so women in particular are susceptible to that. Don't let that fool you. Don't let that bond you or hold you in. I think a lot of times people, because of trauma, and we're almost always being traumatized, it could, I have a friend in New York that saw this George Floyd thing. And immediately she wanted to text and get on the phone and talk about how infuriating it was. She has a husband. So why are you calling? Right. But no, the thing about that is that they want to commiserate and it does bond them. So I think we have to be careful. That's a false read. It's a false flag that can cause us to connect with someone and think we have something more than what we really have with that person.
It's so true. One of the things I noticed was, especially with the trauma bond, to even get to that point, a lot of times women, they say it takes a woman 7 times being abused before she leaves. And so if you think about that, what if number 3, you may not make it? I'm just saying, and if they do it once, they'll do it again. But the thing is how to, when you're an empath or you're very intuitive, you're very spiritually aware, you're enlightened, however you want to say it, you can tend to, like, I know for myself, I tend to read into potential compared to what's actually there. But the bad thing is, any of my ex relationships that I've had, it's because I know I'm guilty of that. I tend to read into their potential. And the thing is that when you're an empath and you have so much discernment, when you understand why they are that way, that can be a trap too. Yeah. So they're already going to blame you when they're abusing you anyway, right? And then to turn it around and you fall into the trap of, well, why don't you leave? Well, it's because they do this because of their parents, or they haven't healed. So that's one thing we want to talk about is so important to be on your self-love journey. And if it's like I always say, where there's resistance in that energy, where there's resistance, that's kind of your clue that may not be right for you.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. A lot of times you will experience some level of resistance, but what you want to avoid is what you just said, making excuses for why someone is who they are. Well, that's just, I remember I had a relationship where she'd go from 0 to 60 in like no time flat. Like, why have you done this? And blah, 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 and just go off. And I'm like, what just happened?
So you're in prison.
Oh my God. And then in a couple of minutes, she's like, hi, do you want a sandwich? I'm like, no, I want to kick the hell out of you. What are you? I'm still pissed off from that tirade you just had. What, did your medication just kick in? So
that's the other thing. Check their medicine cabinet. Now, we do endorse mental health, but as long as they're taking it, you know what I mean? But don't try to think you can love someone into wholeness.
Yeah, and you can't. And when you talk about loving someone's potential, that is a black hole, because you can say, if they just did this, and if they were just like that, and then you talk about the build-a-boo and other when you start trying to construct somebody, you're already there's already a problem, and we've heard the saying, that a woman loves a man because she thinks she can change him.
Oh, I hate that.
And a man loves a woman because he thinks she'll never change.
Wow.
And I tend to subscribe to an idea that if I meet someone that I'm totally attracted to, if that is who they are, I'm excited about that. Yeah. And I remembered when I was, in my 20s and got married, and my wife was gorgeous, and we were single, and we could travel, and we do all this stuff. I literally sat down with her and I said, why don't we try to outlove each other?
Oh, I love that.
Why don't we try to figure out what pleases each other so much that the other one can do for the other, and just have a contest all the time? And that worked for about, 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden,
let's try something new. Let's see who hates each other.
That's right. Let's see who can be bitter and enraged. Let's see who can not talk to the other and make a lousy meatloaf.
Oscar, so speaking of cooking, it's one of the things that's a big debate now with women working, full-time in career mode. Yeah. And do you think the guys still want a woman that can cook?
No, I don't. Let me tell you something. I'm trying to think of which girlfriend I've had that cooks better than me, and I don't have one. I can't. Really? One does not come to mind. They come close. Let me. No, I don't mean to be cocky, but some men cannot cook. I happen to love cooking, and I'm really good at it. So I basically love to create. So one of my things that I would do, and this may appeal to a love language or not, and I'm not trying to sell here, so you ladies don't. I'll make you breakfast in bed. I make a mean omelet. Like, my omelet is just like beautiful, but I'm talking about, I like to slice the fruits up and, have it on the side and make it look pretty.
Plate it.
Yeah. You got to plate it. You got to make it sexy looking.
Yeah.
So I love doing that. But my favorite thing to do, and any of my, any exes know this, my absolute favorite thing to do is to be in the kitchen with like some wine, or a gin and tonic, which,
Yeah.
and we've got the music on. And I've got a sous chef. That's my girl right now. And we're cutting everything up, and we're
Nice.
slicing it up, and we're dancing in the kitchen. So, you get a little dance going, you turn around, little soft kiss, and then all of a sudden, now you've got to feed her. So, now it's ready. You give her, oh my God, that's
Yes.
you want to talk about foreplay, man. That's foreplay on steroids.
And
right
Oscar's
there.
like, but first, let me look at your tongue.
Oh, wait.
See if you should eat this or not.
Okay, so wait a minute. There's no context there, Amber. So the people are watching is like, so this guy's got a tongue fetish? What the hell are you talking about? All right, so those of you listening, let me clarify. So I'm a health and wellness practitioner. And one of the things I practice is something called Zitsu Shin. Zitsu Shin is tongue analysis. So when you look at someone's tongue, when I look at someone's tongue, when I used to do this regularly, I can look and see the digestive tract. I can see different aspects. So your body, and this is what I love about holistic stuff in general, your body's a roadmap. Like some have heard of iridology. You can look at the eyes and see what's happening in the body. You could look at the fingernails. You could look at the ears. You could look at the tongue. All of those tell you things about the body. So when you really understand those nuances, then that helps. But yeah, generally I don't bring up the tongue thing right away. But if they're laughing with their mouth open, I'm like, okay, what do we got right now? She's got ABS. As soon as she eats that cottage cheese, she's gone to the bathroom. No.
So much for romance.
So much for romance. Well, I don't know. I'm not into that kind of thing. That's really kinky.
That's another whole.
Well, I laughed my butt off the other day because someone I can't remember who it was said that their husband gave them an enema. Helped them. And
Brittany.
I didn't think that anybody else did that, but I have done that more than once. I have administrated. No, I know that sounds crazy, but because I'm a health and wellness guy, I talk about bowel movements. I can't help it. So if somebody has some issues, one of the things they should do is what's called a coffee enema. And you literally take black coffee, 2 cups of black coffee, you put it in the bag and you insert it and you lie on your side, and the caffeine in that coffee will break up what's called mucus plugs in the intestinal tract. Like I have literally
that today.
Yeah. You just gotta put on some soft music,
I gotta romance myself a little bit.
That's right, lube and romance.
That's right. Coffee enema.
That's right.
That's the post action I'm getting right now.
But you'll be
Quarantine.
I was just gonna say you'll be surprised at how amazingly healthy that is. And I've seen people like they start glowing. I had one girlfriend, she's still in touch with me. She's like, "Oh my God, you changed my life with this stuff." Not just the enemas, but some other stuff that
my mind started going like that. I'm like, I bet you did.
Yeah.
So it's like just coffee. So just ground up coffee, and then you just.
Oh no! Like black coffee, like you're ready to drink it. It's hot. Yeah, already liquid. You take it, you pour it into an enema bag. You put 2 cups in there with some warm water, and then you lie on one side, insert it, and try to hold it in as long as you can. Usually 10 minutes will do. When it comes out, it's going to be bringing some stuff out of you, including some parasites and stuff that'll be in the lower intestinal tract. Then you do it again. You lie on the left side and you do the same thing because, you have ascending and descending colon. You want to try to get the gravity to work in your favor. And literally, that is a thing. So when you were talking about the tongue analysis, I mean, look at your tongue. Yeah, they were calling me the tongue doctor. I was like, hey, look, it ain't like that. Like Richard Pryor, let go of my ears. I can't do it. I let go of my ears. Okay. Yeah.
That's so funny.
They just don't think this innocent mouth is going to talk like dirty like that, right?
If you want to hear more about these holistic approaches to your best life, y'all can catch Oscar on Natural Nation every Tuesday.
Tuesday at 11 a.m., yes.
Tuesday at 11 a.m. with Nicole Giddens. Hey, girl.
Yeah.
Okay. Crack me up, Oscar. Okay, so let's just jump into a few things here. Let me turn this back around so you can see this. Okay. You guys want to call into the hotline, be part of the show. We'd love to have you. 281-587-1540. 281 587-1540. It's your girl, millionaire matchmaker Amber Neal. We're on the Matchmaker Hotline today, and we are talking about coffee enemas and how to live your best life. You know, I pride myself on being very diverse, but I mean, this takes it to a whole new level.
I was going to say, gosh, you didn't see that one coming.
No, but hey, if it makes you feel skinnier and it gets rid of some bad stuff, that's really good.
Oh my
Does
gosh.
it help with weight loss?
Oh yeah. It'll help with weight loss. But mostly what it's doing is it's allowing your body to absorb the nutrients that it needs when you're taking in other nutrients. Most people don't realize that once your intestines are clogged, you're not absorbing nutrients anymore. So you could be eating healthy stuff, but you're malnourished in some respects. So yeah. And the most important thing is just getting rid of the parasites and stuff like that.
I find it so amazing. I always notice, like, especially on Instagram, they're always giving you like health tips. And if you just, one of them was like chew up pumpkin seeds, and that has something it does for you. And it's amazing how really everything we need for healing truly is.
Oh yeah,
on the earth.
Oh my God, and you know, it even goes deeper than that. I mean, this is a complete different conversation. But what fascinated me that I loved was that not only everything on the earth that you need, like pumpkin seed is great for prostates. You know, men that have prostate issues should eat pumpkin seeds. That's very good for it. But every season, like right now, we're moving into the summer season. The foods that grow in the summer are different. Like right around September, November-ish, you'll see pomegranates that'll be all of a sudden popping up, and they're in season. Apples are in season, things like that, because it's the end of the harvest. Did you know that your body, depending on where you live on the planet, actually has a need, like an uptick for certain nutrients that are found in certain foods that happen to grow at certain times in the year?
Wow.
Like it's so amazing how connected we are to this planet.
Yeah.
And how few people really understand that. So, but kind of going back, let's kind of dovetail this back into the relationship thing. One of the things, the reason I talk health to women that I would have a potential interest in is because, you know, if you're taking a journey together, you want to truly be healthy together. You know, if somebody's life is trying to take care of someone else because they're unhealthy, that sucks.
Yeah.
You know, you want to, not that you don't do it, you do it because you love them.
Right.
But if you have somebody who you can say, hey, honey, let's make a commitment. I'm going to try to stay healthy. Like I decided, 20 years ago, I weighed 264 pounds.
What?
And I was tired. I had bad skin. I had terrible gastro. What do you call acid reflux? I had all kinds of health. My back was always hurting, and I just said, "That's it. I'm done with that because I'm too young, too active to be dealing with that crap." And I'm 195 right now. I've been 195 for 20 years, and I don't plan to be anything. As soon as I get to 200, I stop eating, I adjust, but I don't go past that because I'm 6 foot tall, and I like long walks on the beach. No, just kidding.
You passed a lot of them. Women want to know how tall you are. That's like a big, seriously, you'd be surprised how many women, if you're not at least 5'9", that's a deal breaker.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, they want to wear heels. Yeah, no, they want to wear heels, and I get it. But yeah, so the point is be healthy together. Be committed to that because, you know, ultimately I'd love to have someone on the dance floor and being able to move around and travel. My gosh. When I travel, I'm relentless. Like I'm on my phone at 6 a.m. I'm like, okay, I've got the agenda. Like, all right, let's get up. Let's watch the sunrise. After that, we're going to have us.
Well, you just lost all the night hours.
Oh no, but
6 a.m. That's when I'm going to bed.
Yeah. Well, no, I can burn the candle at both ends. So yeah, I'll party with you till 2 and still wake up at 6.
That's important too. You know, when it comes to like dating and relationships, there's certain deal breakers that, especially in today's world, do you think this has always been the top 3 deal breakers: spirituality, politics, and religion. Do you think that that's important when you're first meeting someone to discuss, or is that something that you think you can wait to discuss?
Gosh, I kind of want to bring those up relatively soon. Yeah. Maybe not the first date, but certainly if I'm interested, we're going to talk about that. Not for any other reason than, okay, so let's say someone's an atheist. I'm not an atheist. I happen to believe that there is a divine being.
Yes.
Now, what you call him is your choice.
Right.
Now, there's also women and some of you are listening, and this could be a deal breaker for you, but there's some women that'll say to me, Oscar, I want a man sitting next to me in church. I'm generally inclined to think most ministers that are out there, the ones that fleece their flocks, are scumbags to me. Yeah. I'm not even interested in those guys. If they're out there taking advantage of the flock, screw those guys. They're not ministers, they're crooks. Exactly. Period. Now, there are some really great men, one of whom I will have here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So I want you guys to tune in. He's a pastor and is doing incredible things in his community. I want to highlight that guy. I want to bring him in. I want to show people what he's doing and have him there. So I'm not inclined, generally speaking. I don't believe in, there's religiosity. And I like to have that conversation with someone I'm dating, because if I say to you, do you understand what religiosity is? And they'll say, well, what is that? Well, when somebody is basically in the constructs of religion, I can take a Bible and I can show you all the reasons why Catholicism, for an example, is based on a lot of false premises. I will show you in your copy of the Bible if you're a Catholic. Right. Now, will I respect you as being a Catholic? Yes, as long as you respect that I'm not going to go to your church and sit in front of a guy with a big pointy hat on, because you may be insulted by what I'm saying, but this is how deep I get, and this is why I bring that up. Because I will say to you, do you know why he's wearing that hat? And you'll go, no. And I'll tell you, because it represents the fish, right? And the fish, that round top, that was what that is. And then I'll say, do you know why people ate fish on Fridays? And they'll, no, why? Well, why are Christians told to eat fish? Well, mainly because it was a commerce issue. The fishermen came back in on Friday. They had all this fish, and it rotted over the weekend. Right. So they made you eat fish on Fridays, not because it was any religious constructs, but because it was profitable.
Exactly.
And most of that stuff, if you go back to the root of most of religiosity, you'll see it's all based on ritual. I'm an intellectual. I'm not interested in ritualistic behavior. I want somebody who's enlightened, who's self-actualized. Self-actualization means an awareness of yourself and your spirituality. And when you have that sense of awareness, you come to the table with a certain confidence and, quite frankly, a certain sexiness. Yeah. I mean, my God, when you know, and you know like you know, damn, girl, mama, come here. As long as you're not trying to get too cocky and try to, because the tail doesn't wag the dog, okay? No, but actually there's a balance, and I remember I have dated some very alpha women, but what I can appreciate about an alpha woman, the ones that have their stuff together, they know when to turn their alpha off. They know when to just relax and let's be submissive for each other. Not that the woman has to be submissive, but let's be submissive for each other in the sense that we have an understanding that this is who we are and we don't have to put on any guises. But yeah, I think politics, if somebody likes Trump and I don't like Trump, or I like Trump and they don't like Trump, I mean, we're going to have some philosophical differences. It's not a deal breaker as long as we recognize each other's humanity. But if someone drank the Kool-Aid till they think that there's no humanness, then I'm not interested in anyway. So I think that those major religion, and then what was the third one?
Spirituality. The
spirituality piece. Yeah, I equate that to religion, because I think, again, spirituality is
politics, religion. Yeah.
Yeah, a sense of knowing.
Kids.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes finances will come up, and that's a big conversation, because women are statistically making more money than men these days. And what does that look like? What are those gender roles? There was a lady I was with, and at the time I had some financial challenges, and she was making like money hand over fist. And I was struggling to pay the restaurant bill every time we went out. And then one day she was like, you want me to get that? I was like, if you don't mind. And she was like, yeah, no. So we worked out an arrangement where, why don't I get this one, you get next one, I get this one. And now and she didn't mind. It was nothing, but it gave us that time to go out, and it wasn't an uncomfortable conversation to have. So I really think if you're interested, you should have some of the rudimentary discussions early on. Yeah. Because then you decide, what can I accept and what can't I accept? And if there's a deal breaker in there, before you get emotionally entrenched, especially for women, cut bait and run. Yeah. Because you don't want to be tied down to somebody who's got issues that you can't live with.
And that's the stress. That's all we try to stress. We're not here to judge you as far as casual sex, but we are here to stress that energy is very real, and you need time to see what kind of things people are dealing with before you go invest, or to get your heart involved, and then you find out, oh my God, we totally don't believe in rearing kids the same way, or we don't believe in the way we spend money or the way we treat our family. There's so many things that start off great, but lust looks a lot like love, and I keep saying that.
Yeah.
One is ego-based and one is selfless. And one of the things that you were talking about, Oscar, when people really jump into a relationship, when it comes to politics specifically, people may say, I'm a Trump supporter or I'm not a Trump supporter, right? But the real sapiosexual like you're going to go, yeah, but why?
Exactly.
Why do you support Trump, or why do you not? Because there's another whole enlightened spiritual person that's going to see the illusion of politics and see what it is meant to do, and which is divide. And so you may not like the person, but I think at the same time you have to have, there's got to be, when you're fighting the principalities per se, what does that look like, and what kind of person would it take to fight a principalities? Because not all angels play harp. Some carry swords. So I think it's really just about, do you believe this because your parents was a Republican or your parents were a Democrat? Or do you actually think for yourself? And I think that's a turnoff if you're just doing it because you're following the masses.
Oh, I agree 100%. Because you're looking for someone who's seeking the truth and enlightenment, not just following along. And if maybe they're following along because they're ignorant about something, I don't mind if they're naturally curious. To me, curiosity is very sexy in a woman.
Yeah, sure.
If you are someone who's always interested in learning, oh my gosh, drive faster, speed turns me on. Like, yeah, let's have that conversation. And if we don't know something, let's research it together and learn it together. I think that really bonds you. When you have someone who thinks they know what they know and they're closed to any other possibility, then that's probably a one-way street down, what we would call just a very strong disagreement. The immovable object and the irresistible force. Once you clash, you may not come back from that if you really strongly disagree.
Yeah. One thing you also said I wanted to clarify, nowadays men and women are so confused on who does pay for the date and how this works. We just, us old over 40 folks, we just assume that the guy's going to pick up the tab. And I think in the beginning, I think that that's appropriate. You know what I mean? I think if you, just from being traditional myself, that's my beliefs. Then you go to New York and you're going to find women that are so aggressive that they will not let you pay for a tab because they need you to know that I'm independent and I got this. But does that work toward a man's basic blueprint if you come in so independent from the beginning?
I think it depends on the man. I think there's some insecurity issues that can creep in with men, or the ego steps in and they want to show the woman. I leave all of that at the door. If somebody says, hey, I got this, I'll be like, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it. I used to not be that way. I used to, oh, no, and then I realized we're talking about being on equal ground here.
Yeah.
So let's really do that. And I think times have changed. So it depends. But I like picking up the tab, especially at the beginning. I think that's, just the honorable thing to do. But eventually, if you're dating, split expenses. You guys both make money.
I agree. Yeah. And, I don't know where you heard that women are making as much as men nowadays. But I know that we are.
Especially in the African-American community, they make considerably more. Considerably more. If you look at the statistics, it's staggering. Like they're 20, 30, 40% more sometimes. In some instances, so that's a whole other topic, but
Well, let's take a quick break. We've got to come back. We haven't even got to an article yet about 7 tips that you could use from Silicon Valley's top matchmaker. She's going to give us some advice. Also, if we get time to it, we'll give you some more advice for you married folks out there fighting. But you guys are listening to Edge Radio at 101.7 FM, 1540 AM on the all-new Matchmaker Hotline. We will be back in about 2 minutes. Y'all stay tuned.
Between the ages of 0 and 5, a child's mind is very impressionable. Researchers call it the theta brainwave. This low frequency is the state of consciousness between the conscious and subconscious worlds. In this state, the mind is capable of deep and profound learning, healing, and growth. There is a subconscious loop that's created during these early years. Who you believe you are has been downloaded based on experiences that you have had. A bad experience could create fears and limitations. Do you love who you are? Do you believe in yourself? The reality is that you can't control your childhood. All you can do is interpret it. You can choose to see your good and your value. Try this experiment. Project forward. See yourself at 80 years old. Now you have lived a lifetime. What advice would you have for your younger self? What risks would you have taken? What relationships would you have avoided? Did you celebrate life? Did you allow yourself to feel, to be present? Your 80-year-old self would tell you to not live in fear, to have faith that things will work out, that all you have to do is persist until you succeed. Your 80-year-old self would tell you to stay healthy, to take care of your body. And it would ultimately tell you to share your gifts with the world.
Hey guys, welcome back into the Millionaire Matchmaker Hotline in H-Town, baby. We are live in studio. It is your girl, Millionaire Matchmaker Amber Neal. Today we are talking about really just kind of a lot of things, but we're mostly introducing you guys to Oscar Hines. Y'all welcome him back into the show.
We've been talking about coffee enemas.
Abusive relationships, if you should pay for the date or not pay for the date. But let's not forget the most important thing is Oscar is one of Houston's top 10 bachelors. So if you want to meet him, holler at your girl and I will introduce you guys and we'll filter it. We'll follow it and see if it's a match made in Houston. You know, because I'm going to find him love. He just don't know it yet. He hates it.
Listen,
he secretly loves it.
You know, it's. I think part of it is it's a little embarrassing because I'm not shy. I'll walk up to someone and say, "Hi, how are you?" No, I won't. But I will initiate an interest that I have. So I think men generally tend to be hunters to some degree.
Yeah.
And if we are, and I don't mind if somebody is attracted to me, and it's happened on a few occasions because I'm not the best looking guy, but they like find something they like and they'll come up and they'll say, you know, I really find you attractive and, you know, I'd love to have a drink or something with you. And I've found that to be really refreshing because it takes the weight off. Now, if there's not a mutual attraction, that gets a little awkward. You're like, what time is it? No, you know, sometimes I'll actually even accept or, you know, have a conversation because maybe there's something about this person that I just didn't discover yet that is sort of buried under the surface, if you will. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I learned that I was a sapiophile. I pronounce it sapophile, so I think we probably have to look up the pronunciation. But for those of you who don't know, that is someone...
trust yours, Oscar. You're a scholar.
Well, I don't know about that, but the sapophile is somebody who is attracted to somebody because of they're even sexually attracted because of the intellectual and sort of the emotional overall aura that the person emits versus just a physical attraction. And I learned that when I first came to Texas. There was this young man that I hung out with. We used to go to this club together up north. And every week, the guy's a bodybuilder. Every week he's telling me, man, my girlfriend looks like Vanessa Williams. I'm like, now she was the hot one back then. She just won Miss America.
The porn star? Or
No, Vanessa Williams, the Miss America, light skin. Yeah. She did she did the whole thing.
They always like do a parody,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I heard my friend tell me.
Well, it was funny because every week this guy told me this. I said, bring her in. He never brought her. I said, this is a figment of your imagination. And then one day, man, I'm not kidding. I see this woman walk in and I'm staring at her. I'm like, I can't get my eyes off of her. And then he's next to her. I'm like, she looks like Vanessa Williams.
Wow.
She walks up to me. She's like, hey, and he introduces her. This is my girl. And then he says, would you mind doing me a favor? I trust you, man. Can you just hang out with her so these knuckleheads don't hit on her? I got to go run an errand. And he's got to leave the club. So no, he trusted me and I'm pretty honorable. So I said, cool. So I sit down with her. And I said, so I understand that, Daryl just got you an engagement ring and that you guys are getting married.
Oh, wow.
And he says, yeah, he's all excited about that, but I'm not marrying that fool. And I went, what did you say? She goes, I'm dating one of the Houston Oilers. This is how far back that goes. That's when the Oilers, not the Texans.
Oilers.
So she was like, I'm dating one of the Houston Oilers. And I was like, what? I said, well, he loves you. He really cares about you. She says, well, I mean, he's paying some of my stuff and I don't really care if that's what he wants to do. And he wants to buy me a ring. That's up to him. I didn't tell him I was going to marry him. And she went from the most beautiful woman that I have seen like in person like that to like this ugly creature that I was like, I mean, literally I was repulsed by her. She was just like, yuck. When he gets back, I'm like, hey man, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, hey, this chick has larceny in her heart, man. She is trying to take your money. She's doing. I said, he got pissed. He was like, see, that's why I don't trust you, man. I'll leave you with her for just a minute, and now you're trying to take my woman and telling me that. God. I was like, dude, and he's a big, muscular, getting all pissed off. I said, hey man, back up with that. I said, you know that I'm your boy. You know that I'm not gonna. I said, I'll tell you what, man. Consider yourself duly warned that this is the situation. I'm not going to say another thing about it. We're cool. All right?
Yeah.
Boom. Man, a week later, 2 weeks later, he comes crying, man, she left me for a Houston Oiler. I'm like, duh.
I'm so shocked.
But what that taught me was that the most attractive people are not always the best.
Amen.
Their heart is what you see. And there's some amazing people that when you really see their heart, they become more beautiful to you.
Right.
They become more sexy to you. So it's not always about just the first physical appearance. Sometimes there's something deeper to that.
I worked with ENA for a long time, a private social club here in Houston for singles. One of the biggest things I heard from them is that I fell in love with someone that if I would have been swiping, I would have totally missed. Because when you go to events and you get to know somebody, you have the common interest, which is great. Mm-hmm. There's an icebreaker, which is the activity. But now you get to see how people treat people, other friends or other women they're attracted to. And you get some kind of sense of, hey, somebody's going to vouch for you. Like, hey, you're a cool guy. I just think events are natural. Mm-hmm. People come to matchmaking because they don't have time. They're true road warriors or like literally gone all the time. Or they just are too introverted to go out and do it themselves. Matchmaking, that's why it's so expensive. But the reality of it is you save money, not going on bad dates. So there's always a benefit to that. But I think what you're saying is exactly it. That's why you got to slow down when you're getting to know people and not let the lust lead. Because like you said, she's a dime. But did you read the fine print?
Yeah.
And that's what it really boils down to.
Oh, man. And she was yucky inside once you look past that. But you know what? I also, and this sounds a little quirky, but because I wrote a book on communications, it's in the book. One of the things that I mention is I like to watch how other people observe something. Like, there's some people that want to go to a movie on the first date. I will never do that.
Horrible idea.
Bad idea. I'm not sitting in a dark room with you for 2 hours, but there is something to it. And you can maybe pick this up in a comedy club where you watch how they laugh. You see what they react to. You see what they're interacting with. But, I like to watch how people are reacting to certain things because that gives you a sense of, do they get it? Is that humor, did they just get that joke that just would have went over everyone's head? So there's nuances like that you can't normally pick up just in the traditional ways. I think the best dates, quite frankly, are to do something that both of you have never done before.
Yeah, get your bucket list out.
Yeah.
Do something together.
Do something together that you're both learning from. Then you watch and see how the other person's learning, how they're adopting to this new situation. What are they doing? Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because that's one of the things I thought about doing as far as creating a show. I was working on a show before about creating it was going to be kind of a combination of the Amazing Race and a scavenger hunt, but it was like a dating event, and you get paired up with different people, and you literally, because everybody's great when things are easy.
Yes.
That's why these couples are going through requesting divorce right now, because it's how do you deal with things when it's not so easy, when you're in a bad situation. And I always laugh, but I'm so serious. I recommend that after you've been dating at least a month, go on a road trip together. Get locked in a car together. Yeah. Find out what kind of music they like. Find out how stressed they are. Find out are they a hostile driver? I mean, because all those kind of transcend over into their whole personality anyway. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So if that's how they'll treat strangers, and I mean, you don't want somebody that's so hot-tempered, you got to walk on eggshells too. So I think it's good to spend time doing things. That's great advice. Yeah. Something brand new that you've both never done, and you got to learn how they are in those uncomfortable situations. Exactly. Especially find out what their fears are. Like me, for example, I'm scared to death of heights, but I still have it on my bucket list to go skydiving. It's been on my bucket list for about 15 years, but I'm still trying to get, I am going to do it. Yeah. I'm going to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. But that kind of stuff would be really good to see, how people react to fear.
I was going to say, I'm not sure how many people would want to jump out of an airplane together. I did it when I was young, and I got over it. I was like you. Oh yeah. And I wanted to do. I did in Austin. They had a place out there, and it was a tandem jump, but it was intense. But you're right, because there is that moment, especially when it's really loud and you're about to leave that plane, where you're like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm going to turn around and go back home right now.
Your survival brain kicks in this is
but,
a bad idea.
But one of the things that I used to love doing, and we'll probably reinstitute that again, is I like taking, not on the first date, I've done it on first dates actually for those who really trust me, but I ride motorcycles, and I taking a woman on the back of your bike as a first date, man, ooh, that's hot.
Super hot too.
That's hot.
People who also don't like to ride bikes would think that's hot.
I will tell you that
you have to trust somebody.
You've got to really, but part of what happens in that process is that if you're on the back of my bike, I've got good reflexes and I'm safe. I'm not trying to be an idiot out there. I want to live. I got a lot to live for. But what almost always has happened after someone that I've been dating or interested in dating does that is that they trust me after that, because they're like, okay, you're not trying to kill anybody. You're not trying to kill us, but there's a trust that's established. And I think, that's important early on, because really the formula is very simple. We've talked about it before. A woman needs to feel loved. When she feels loved, she feels secure. A man needs to feel respected. When he feels respected, he feels more confident. And if it's a woman's fault, she's not being respectful, and so he holds back love. If it's the man's fault, he's not being loving, so she disrespects him. And so if you define that early on, that's a real central piece. But I like the idea of bonding over things that maybe are shared new experiences.
Yeah. I like that too, because let's say we have this horrible beach in Houston called Galveston down. Anyway, Galveston, I would not stick my toe in it. They've had cases of flesh-eating disease down there. I am not. It's pretty to look at, but do not swim in Galveston if you're new to the city. Ugh. But anyway, so we have this yucky Galveston beach, but I think that, something like that, I mean, just find out what you want to do and what they want to do. Do something that's brand new together, because then you really get to learn and see the little things. It really does. The breakups usually wind up being over the little things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, one of my favorite things to do is also to go out and walk in a park, like go into nature together. Because, there's no distractions. When you are in nature, there's no loud music. There's no waiter clanging around. There's none of that. It's mano a mano. You are eyeball to eyeball, face to face, belly to belly, and you're talking about things that matter to you. The other thing that I enjoy doing is I love I like it straight with no chaser. I love to have a conversation with someone that, like, let's say it's the second or third date. There's a little, I call it a game. It's not really a game because, you identify it, but I call it, let's play a little game. And they're like, what is that? And it's like, let's play disclosure. Oh, what is that?
I like
Okay,
that.
well, attorneys disclose what they have on their side as evidence.
Yeah.
And, we both agree that for this predetermined period of time, you can ask me any question you want without any judgment.
Wow.
And I'm going to answer you honestly, and I can do the same with you. That's deep. Yeah.
Open that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, it's not the kind of thing that you do on the first date usually, unless you're really into them or interested. But if you go down that road, man, some of what we discovered, I remember literally once the woman said, well, are you interested in me just to sleep with me, or do you want a relationship? And that was her question. And I said, I'm really liking you. I'd like a relationship, but I definitely want to sleep with you.
Hey, at least you're honest, because we know.
Yeah. And we went home that day and we're knocking the boots. But you know what? We had already agreed. Let's date. We don't even need to go any, because I like you. You're smart.
Yeah.
I'm smart. We're both physically attracted to each other. Let's move this to the next level. And it probably saved about 2 or 3 weeks of that process because, we were both mutually horny. So
Right. This is going to save me a little bit of time here. Well, one question I want to ask you, what your thoughts on this, Oscar, are opposites attract. Do they stay together? Because that's the people say yin and yang and blah blah blah. I'm gonna let you go first. See what you think.
I don't believe that. I think opposites attract for a while because there's a curiosity. I do believe that people have to have common values. If you could melt things down to maybe just a few central things that are really important to keeping people together, their values is the biggest one.
Yeah.
Because I am attracted, for an example, to people with integrity. If I see that they're consistently without integrity, then they're not somebody I want to be with. Even if they appear to have integrity with me, I'm not buying it anymore. Yeah. And I think a lot of people would agree on that. That's a value-based system. I think you said something that I never thought about, but I am not a serious guy. Like I appear serious when I need to be, but I love to laugh. I think my family, my whole family culture, we get together and we laugh all the time. And so you mentioned on some previous shows, it's great to see someone that has a similar sense of humor, that shared sense of humor is there. And I agree with that because, gosh, man, when stuff makes me laugh and I say something crazy and they're laughing and we're both laughing our asses off, it's a great chemistry and it really does bond you. This idea that opposites attract, I think, is temporary. Now, can they make it work? Yes, but if they're truly opposites, what happens when they reach the impasse? Yeah. What do they do at the impasse? And I think that if they really have an interest in staying together, they better define what that looks like. Somebody's got to give, possibly. So what does that look like?
Well, and that leads me to my next question. Sonia wrote into the show.
Wait. You didn't answer this question. What do you think? Do opposites attract?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. ADD. Yes, they attract. I don't think they stay together because, especially if it's of common interest. If you're solely into sports and I hate sports, I'm going to be miserable. Or if I'm dragging you to the mall and you hate shopping, if that's like you're really like your passion, what you really love to do, I think that you can make it work if it's not the major deal breaker stuff.
Yeah. The
religion, the kids, the parenting, politics, money. I mean, just basically everything.
Yes. All of it. The whole kit and caboodle.
But the saying in the matchmaking industry is that, opposites do attract, they just don't stay together. Mm-hmm. And you'll probably have people, if you want to call in, if you're opposites and you've attracted and you're staying together, please share your success with us. Give us some tips because I think it all goes into, like you said, the integrity and the open-mindedness of the people involved. As long as there's trust and truth and it's not a situation where you're insecure about the opposite part.
Yes.
You can trust them. I think I think anything can be worked out with the right amount of conversation. Yeah. And the right amount of prayer and right amount of humble humility to like you said, let's outlove each other.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's so funny. I always say that, I'm like, just let's outlove each other, because that's what it really boils down to. But back to Sonia had wrote in, because one of the things we had talked about earlier is how you can't love someone into wholeness. And her question was, how do you prevent, from being hurt? Like, how do you stop these things from happening? And I think when we were on break, you were saying it's really all about the boundaries.
Yes. So the question from social media was, how do you prevent it? How do you prevent it? I mean, what do you do? I think really the most important thing is, there's a Russian proverb that says, in times of peace, prepare for war. And I've raised my kids with that edict, because you only have a certain amount of time to prepare. When you jump into a relationship, your mind is racing forward and all the possibilities, and you're all excited and jazzed up about stuff. But if there's an abusive situation, the only way to prevent that from going any further is to establish boundaries, deal breakers, the absolute, you will not cross this line. I remember one time I was dating someone. She was from the Middle East, and she was, very attractive lady, and I smacked her on her butt while we were walking into a place. Oh my God. She was like, what? And I thought it was in context because I was just being playful, but she was like, absolutely, do not disrespect me like that. Now in private, spank my ass, but in public, oh hell no. But for me, it taught me right away, I will never do that again, because I thought I was just, hey, it was a sign of affection. Yeah. It's not even something that's characteristic of me. Right. I just was being playful at that moment and didn't think anyone was looking. I wouldn't. But man, she took it so seriously. I was like, I will never do that again. I'm sorry, And
that's where the opposites don't attract, though, because like if your language of love is touch or affection, or if you're like you and I are goofballs, we love to play and have fun, and we're so intelligent that our humor is even intelligent. You know what I mean? And so it gets to that point, like if you're that opposite and you're like, oh, I don't get what you're saying, or if you're slapping them on the ass and they're just like, oh my God. I mean, I think anything that you have to be not yourself.
Right.
You have to betray who you are, your core, to be with that person. That is where opposites do not attract, and the boundaries don't matter, because you're just not the same people. Yeah.
And if it's an abusive situation, if you let the boundary slip already, it's hard to gain back that ground. And I would say, for those of you who are already concerned that you're losing ground, you need to have a conversation with your that partner you're interested in, and say, listen, you know what, we've been seeing each other for a month. There's certain things that are important to me, and I feel like if we are really looking to sustain this, we need to talk about some of that stuff. Because last week when you told me we were going to go out Friday and then you just canceled at the last minute, I'm not down with that.
Exactly.
You can't do that, because I have things that I could have done that day that I didn't do because you said that we could go out, and I want to go out with you, but not like if we're going to be flaky like that. And so I think when you set those boundaries, even if you've already lost ground, because maybe he no-showed you twice, you need to decide, what am I going to do about that? And then be ready to absolutely, if in my mind, if that's a deal breaker for you, be prepared to break the deal that day. If that's what's going to happen, and say true. This is not going to work anymore.
I got to talk to you about communication from a guy's perspective, okay? Because one of the things, and this is where opposites do not attract and stay together, I'm a communicator for a living. I mean, if I'm not on here, I'm on the stage, I'm like you. I am communicating for a living. So communication is so important to me. And I really go back to live by those two rules. People do what they want to do. People do what you let them. So with people having our phone with us at all times, one of the, it's Meme Monday, so we have some funny memes I want to go over real quick before you have to go. One of the memes is, men do not read paragraph text, ladies. And I think it's a horrible idea to try to communicate via text if it's anything that's serious, because you lose everything. You're losing the nonverbals, you're losing the signs, you're losing the inflection, the tone. You cannot tell how people meant things, especially people don't punctuate either. Right? And I was actually talking to a guy, and he was like, I really love you. I think you're great. I think you're amazing. Love you as a person. I think you're great, but we're just opposite. And I'm like, I just really, it's the one thing I know is true to me. I can't get past when a guy won't. It takes 5 seconds to communicate back. Mm-hmm. And like, so if they don't text you back all day, they don't text you back the next day. I think people. I don't know. Like
that's a sign.
What is that?
Yeah,
it's
a sign. It's a sign of control and disrespect. If somebody's busy in the moment, they can't respond like within 90 seconds. I get that,
cool.
But don't not respond to me all day, because now you're making a statement by that lack of response.
Seriously.
And specific to what you were saying with. You were just mentioning, like, you had this guy that you were dealing with that just told you he loves you and all of this stuff, but this idea of communicating on text messaging, that is horrific. Because as a person that wrote a book on communications, one of the things I open with is I say that the statistical data shows that literally 93% of communication is nonverbal.
Exactly.
Only 7% is what you're saying.
Right.
So that means that when you text message someone, you're only communicating at a 7 percentile. Wow. That's not very good. Now, that's why it's great for simple messages. Yes, I will be there at 7:00. That's my, or I'm running late or whatever. But when you're like, hey, the reason that I said that because when you did this and I did that and blah, 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 and you got this long drawn out deal, your inflections are missing, your voice intonations are missing, and much of what I'm going to gather, and I will say this about women, because you all have a scientifically a larger hippocampus, and amygdala, and you got big brains, big brains.
I have a big head.
Women notice details more than men do.
Yeah.
And one of the details you notice is how I answer you, how I inflected my voice, the way I looked at you, the way that I enunciated what I said is going to tell you a lot more than what I'm saying. Like sometimes, you walk in, why are you upset? I'm not upset,
Right.
The words I'm not upset can be said a million ways, right? So those are the nuances that get buried under the table when you are text communicating, which is a horrific idea.
And how do you get them off of that? Like, I mean, I just literally can't. That's why it just kind of fell apart. I just couldn't get him off the text. And I'm like, dude, like, not only are you only communicating in text, you're not communicating in text. So it's like, that drives me crazy.
But think about the player book.
Yeah.
The player book is that if I'm hanging out with Bree and you're here and you're texting me, I can say, yeah, this business associate is busting my chops. Let me just respond to that. Okay, baby, I'll see you for dinner while I'm sitting in front of another woman.
Exactly.
That's player 101 stuff.
Let's do a show about that. That's
player. No, you know what we could you know what I say? The Himalaya player. Look, if you get me on, I'll be busting up all these guys' secrets. I'll be like, hey man, let me tell you these guys.
Ain't got nothing on us. We're gonna break it down together here. Because it's true. Because I think that's where so many people beat their head against the wall, is trying to force that circle into that square, and that is where opposites don't. You might be attracted to the person, but if you don't have the same communication style at all, oh, that makes me feel a special kind of cuckoo.
That's right.
It does. I can't deal with it because I'm so logical that it's like it takes that long. So at that point, I feel like you're choosing to not reply. Whether, like you said, maybe you control. Maybe they don't know what they want. And the other thing too is, like, who loves text message is passive aggressive people. Mm-hmm. Like, so I'm not passive aggressive at all. There's nothing about me. I am probably the opposite.
You're aggressive,
I'm
not
aggressive, okay?
Yeah.
Because and that's just how I am. I'm just short to the point.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know the answer, and I think that is where people hide behind the phone. So if you have anything serious to say, you guys, don't do it over text. So do you need to run so we can?
I do. I have a couple call meetings I have to take. This has been awesome, though.
Oh my God, it always is, Oscar. Every time you're on the show, I love it.
Yeah. Well, we have a nice dance because we could just freestyle and still get a lot of substance out of it, which is awesome.
Yes, and I love it because I know a lot as a matchmaker, but when you bring in the communication and the energy and the spirituality and the body language and the holistic approach and just being you're so, man, it's like, wow, I feel like I learned something new about you every day.
Ooh, behave.
Yes.
Hey, what are you doing
He
later?
is single. Hey. You guys, if you want to meet Oscar, he's one of the top 10 most eligible bachelors. And we're doing some filtering here. We'll bring you on, we'll introduce you on the show, send you out on a date, see how it goes.
I never forgot. I went to a college.
Oh, gosh. First, I'm looking at tongues and handwriting.
During that time,
Just kidding.
And he has a great sense of humor, and he's not kidding. All right, guys. Well, Oscar, how do people get in touch with you?
Oh, gosh. Just go to OscarHines.com. That's the easiest way, OscarHines.com. And also, check out that interview tomorrow. We're going to really delve into communications. Dr. Frazier's a foremost intellect in the country. I mean, he is the real deal.
Yeah.
6 New York Times best-selling books.
Wow.
So look at our post. You'll be able to find the details. It'll start at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time,
Okay.
7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Perfect. All right, and you've got contact information on your blog, on your
Yes.
on your Facebook, on your website. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Oscar. Top 10 bachelor.
Yes.
Businessman extraordinaire. Salsa dancer. Latin lover. All right, guys. Well, that has been as much as I put it in there for you. Okay.
Thank you.
The rest is up to you, Oscar. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a couple more funny things to talk about here on the Matchmaker Hotline. You guys are listening to Edge Radio at 101.7 FM, 1540 AM on the all-new Matchmaker Hotline. We'll see you guys in about 2 minutes. Stay tuned.
that time, I was an adolescent. And another thing that I struggled with was this idea that my opinion didn't count, it didn't matter. And I never forgot, I went to a college, it was in Westchester County, and it was a very affluent community. It was about 90% white. I was one of the few specks of pepper in a sea of salt, right? And I never forgot, there was this one professor. He was a priest. He had the collar that he wore all the time. He was a Catholic in college. He had piercing blue eyes and this ruddy red complexion and snow white hair. And he had a grimace on his face that said, "I hate life and I want everybody to hate it with me." There was that kind of look. And he had the habit of choosing someone to humiliate once a day in his class. And this day, I saw his eyes lock in on me as I walked across the room. And he had a sneer on his face and he said, "I'm getting that one today." And there was a glass of water on that table. And what was interesting was this is an economic class. So the glass of water is sitting on the table. And he looks at me and he says, "Mr. Hines, is this glass of water half full or half empty?" So I said, "I can't answer the question." It's a simple question. Is it half full or half empty? I'm sorry, I can't answer the question. Look, this isn't rocket scientist, Mr. Hines. I need an answer. Is it half full or half empty? I said, "I can't answer the question." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because I don't know how that glass came to be at 50% capacity. You see, if it was an empty glass that you poured to 50% of its content, then it would be half full. On the other hand, if it was a full glass that you poured out half of its content, then it would be half empty. So until I know how that glass came to be at 50%, I can't answer the question." This man turned beet red. Redder than he was when he started. And he literally went, and bit himself, and that scared the heck out of me. He bit himself. And then he said, "Sit down." Now, I tell that story because in that moment, I realized that my reasoning and my opinion, it mattered. But let's fast forward. Fast forward 12 years later. I'm an adult, I'm sitting home, and I'm watching Johnny Carson, one of my favorite talk show hosts at the time. And in that moment, Johnny introduces Bill Cosby. Now this is before Bill Cosby was whatever you guys think he is now. That was when he was the Jell-O pudding guy, you know, Cliff Huxtable, right? And Johnny welcomes him to the stage. He sits down, and Bill says, I got a story to tell you about a college student. It's an interesting thing. He had a professor, and the professor said, is this glass of water half full or half full? And I heard my story from Bill Cosby being told to Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. And I'm like, whoa. And Johnny says, I've got to meet this college kid. If he's out there, call. I was called to Burbank studio today. I get this New York operator, and she said, what can I do for you, honey? I said, I'm the kid. I told that story a bunch of times in New York and Manhattan, so it must have been.
Hey guys, welcome back into the Matchmaker Hotline. It's your girl, millionaire matchmaker, Amber Neal. You're listening to Edge Radio at 101.7 FM, 1540 AM. And joining me this last 30 minutes of the show, we have Houston's millennial matchmaker joining us on audio, Brianna Craig. Welcome into the show, Brianna.
Nice to be here.
Hey, so we're going to get the millennial opinion on some of these things. So, you know, as a matchmaker, we like to talk about we all have different styles. Some people learn how to be a matchmaker. Some people have a gift of discernment. I'm one of those empath matchmakers where it's just an intuition. It feels like discernment on steroids. Brianna is also an empath matchmaker. Tell us a little bit about your experience as a matchmaker, Brianna.
Well, I've also worked with Benton Adventures, the single social club, as well as done some matchmaking on my own, especially for millennials. So that's why I do call myself the millennial matchmaker. It's just some crazy experiences, just as far as, sometimes people, you can find them the perfect match, but a lot of it has to do with coaching beforehand, because you want them to come in with the right attitude, and first impressions really count.
Yeah, it's so true. I always kid around people and say that I am a matchmaker, not a magician, because so many times people are the reason that they're single. And they may not want to hear that, but sometimes you are the reason why you are not finding love. So let's go over what I like to do is, I'm not saying that there's only one way to be a matchmaker. There's many matchmakers out here that are totally great talented matchmakers and are really helping people find love, and there's enough for everybody. So what I want to do is just discuss 7 expert dating tips from Silicon Valley's top matchmaker. Her name is Amy Anderson. She's the founder and CEO of Links LANX Dating. And she's worked with many of the biggest names in Silicon Valley, and she's here to help make their lives a personal success as well. And over the years, she has compiled a big list of go-to dating advice tips that anyone can apply in their lives. So no matter the size of his bank account or her bank account, and with that, we've compiled them all right here. So number 1, this is Amy's top 7 tips. Number 1. Don't ask questions that you don't want the answer to. I think that's great when you're dating, but I think that's great advice in life, right? On the first few dates with someone, it's natural to ask a lot of questions. And one thing Anderson really wants you to avoid, though, is asking ones that you really don't want turned back on you. First and foremost, it feels very off-putting if you ask someone a question, they punt back, and you ask the same one, and you refuse to answer it. It comes off very one-sided and unfair. So if you don't want to talk about your childhood per se, or your job history, religion, political views, simply ask your date don't ask your date about these topics. Although Anderson is quick to point out that talking about these things early on is in your benefit, which we definitely talked about early in the show, better to know than to not know, right? Speaking of not saying things, here are some secrets it's all right to keep from your partner. So we're not going to go into the whole list today. You guys can find this article, bestlifeonline.com, and it's under the relationship section, and you can read the whole article so you can get a little bit more tips and find out things that it's actually okay to hide in the beginning. So don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. Number 2, make a power play. That's interesting. She says a power play will move. A power play move would be open. To open up about yourself first and then volley back, asking your date the same question that you just revealed about yourself. For example, if you're divorced, it's pretty much inevitable that you'll end up talking about this at some point. So on the first few days, so instead of waiting for them to ask you about your relationship history, Anderson says you can actually flip the whole script around and approach it before they ask. Here's how. Be the first one to bring it up with something like this. So a little bit about me. I was married for 10 years. We got married rather young, and in retrospect, I should have waited and learned more about myself. We really had some really good times, a beautiful child together, and while no one is perfect at all, I will walk into my next relationship with tremendous insights and wisdom about what makes a relationship a great one. For that, I am so thankful. What about you? Do you consider yourself to be in a good place now? Now, what she's done, Brianna, is basically get to the root, because you don't want to bond over a negative experience. If you go in and you're just bashing your ex and you're just talking about that mofo and this guy did that and he did this or she's that, and if you go, that's a negative energy. And because that right there, people that don't have drama in their life, you're going to turn them off if you've got drama around the ex or the kids. And so I think what is really imperative to find out is people's state of mind. What do you say, Brianna?
Yes, trauma bonding is a real thing, like you said, and you can get with someone who has the same issues as you, and it might bring you closer, but in the end, if you're both dealing with the exact same issues, then you aren't going to move forward, because when you're starting to heal, they're going to be like, well, remember when your dad left, and they're, y'all both bonded because your dad left, but then they're like, well, he doesn't really care about you. And you're like, well, we were starting to build back a relationship. And it's just kind of, but that's how they feel about their parent. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be issues with your parents, but it can be issues with your ex, if y'all both had an abusive ex. And I mean, you don't want to bond over negative stuff.
Amen. I agree 100%. The next tip that she gives us is skip questions about the past. So let's elaborate on that a little bit. She said there's plenty of time to learn about a potential mate's past if you keep seeing each other, but what about you care early on should be their present and future. Anderson says keep questions and conversations to the present and to the future tense as much as possible, she recommends. You never want to dilly-dally into the past. Facing forward invites you to invite your date to project and talk about what you want to do in the future together. That's why I think affairs never really last, because you're starting on that negative past. And talk about things you want to do together in the future as opposed to the past, which was clearly not together. And for more great dating advice, there are 30 things that women always love to hear. If you guys want to check out the article, it's on bestlifeonline.com in the relationship section, and you can look up the 30 things that women always love to hear. And as we talked about in the last segment with Oscar, women need to be wanted and men need to be respected. And so definitely check out this article, bestlifeonline.com. Number 4, be yourself, but really. So many times, Brianna, people send in their representative, people are going to find out. I don't know why you're over here faking the funk, because people will find out who you really are, and it's just a matter of time. So why go through the headache for yourself or put them through that? The number one mistake that you can make on a date is misrepresenting yourself. I'll give you guys a good example. So right now, the divorce request has gone through the roof with quarantine. A lot of people have determined that their marriage is over. The problem is when they get online and they get on the dating apps, they represent themselves to be single. And while they might feel single in their heart, but the reality of it is they're not legally single. They are separated. And I can tell you, I've been a matchmaker 15 years, and I can tell you that 90% of my clients will not date someone who is separated because there's still emotional attachment left to go through or divide, or finances to divide. And even when you want a divorce, it is still very emotionally draining to go through a divorce. And I think that you need to give yourself at least a year after you've become newly single, especially after a divorce, before you go try to jump into another relationship, because at that point you're really just bringing your baggage. And so the number one thing, I agree with Amy, the number one thing you can do is misrepresent yourself. So I know you're tempted because of what I said earlier, that most people won't date separated people unless they're just flat out looking for affairs, is be honest, because at some point you've got to reveal that you're really just separated. And then now they're going to take everything that you say from here on out and look at you like they don't, it can cause trust issues. What do you think, Bree?
I think that that's a really big thing for people to have a trust issue over. I mean, the fact of you being married or not married, I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Just be honest. I mean, and just don't take all your baggage back into the relationship with you. Just spend some time, go on a self-love journey, because one of the things that she said from the last when she was saying about questions to skip from the past, one of the things she said is just, are you in a good place now? You can find out a lot of information just by asking that one question: are you in a good place now? You don't have to rebash all the negative drama that came with that question, but be yourself, because the rest of the article says that's because it can come back to you and bite you in the line. In order to find a relationship, you need to be honest about yourself. Visualize an onion. On the first date, the goal is to peel back a layer or two maximum about yourself. Share your values, your background that shapes those values, and some of your interests. Invite your date to also share their values and passions in life. With each successful date, you peel back another couple of layers. It's not that you need to tell potential dates everything about yourself right away, but more than that, being authentic is more likely to lead to a happy, long-lasting partnership than just pretending that you have interests or preferences that you really don't, just to keep a new relationship going. That said, here's some more princely dating wisdom for you. Again, go to bestlifeonline.com. You can check out the whole article and get more tips from Amy. But I think it's very true, because at some point you're going to have to reveal that you weren't really into that. And this boils down to worth issues, guys. Know your worth. You don't have to just settle. You don't have to pick the first person that comes along. And I get it. I know singles are especially lonely right now because, with the quarantine. But, get back out and get into life. Events and Adventures has a great promotion right now, over 200 events a month virtually, plus they're going back to online events, 15 to 20 events a month. Let them know the matchmaker sent you, because there you can skip a lot of the first dating. You have to go through like 97 interviews just to find the top 3 that you like. That's how low the compatibility is. So I think when you come into a place where everybody's screened and everybody's safe, it really makes helps you let your guard down and just focus on the fun. Number 6, pay more attention to the feelings than the facts. And I think that's one of the things that Oscar and I had talked about earlier, was about your intuition. That first voice, that first gut feeling. I think it's when you ignore that gut feeling is when you can tend to get yourself into some trouble. But Amy says that sure, you might have a specific idea of what you're looking for, but instead of just considering your date's job or where they grew up and who their favorite author is, give more weight to how you actually feel when you're talking to them. Focus on facts. Focusing on facts can feel like an interrogation or an interview. The key here is to learn to balance your IQ with your EQ. Use colorful stories to open up about yourself. Invite your date to open up about themselves through your thoughtful and poignant conversation. Express some vulnerability and you will be well on your way to finding a meaningful relationship. She adds, I agree 1,000,000%. Not only do you need to be authentic, you need to be a genuine person, but vulnerability is actually the key to forming the trust, which is what makes it a long-lasting relationship. And the last one is don't get caught up in ticking off boxes. Sometimes smart people can get caught up in the very detail of dating, which can make it quite difficult to find a suitable partner. My clients tend to approach dating with the very traits that made them extremely successful. I had a client, for example, he was one of my millionaire matchmaking clients, very successful, very well off, had great education, great kids, home. I mean, his life was perfect on paper. But the thing is that he treated all the dates like they were an appointment he had to get to. So he would go on a date, and there was 3 girls. He flat out told me, he's like, you have found perfect girls for me. He's like, but I keep blowing it because of the way I approach it. So that's where the date coaching comes in when you have a matchmaker. Because he would approach it like he would go on a date with someone, and then he would say, okay, I'm going to be available in 3 weeks from now between 5 and 7 p.m. You know, it just felt, what do you think, Brianna? It feels so impersonal.
I think his main mistake with that is you never ever want to push a date too far out.
Yes, I agree too.
More than a week, you're killing the romance, you're killing the vibe, you're saying I'm not a priority, you're saying you don't even have an hour to spend with me.
Wow, she's so knowledgeable. I love her. Okay, so then she just says that basically that they wind up and, you know, basically they get way in their heads, and this can implode their love lives. In other words, they try to think their way through dating instead of letting emotions guide the way. Does it sound familiar to any of you guys? Whether it's a long list of must-have descriptors or an ideal match or a lack of willingness to look past even the small things that might not pass muster in a potential match. Many of my clients require coaching to help to learn and to tap into their heart on whether they fulfill every single one of your wants in a mate. Anderson suggests you give them a chance, go on a date, and pay attention to how you feel about them, not just what you think. I agree with that. I know that many times I've said to my clients, okay, you have to work with me energetically, spiritually, emotionally, understand the law of attraction. You have to understand that I need you. You're going to have to work with me, because although you may want love, that may not be enough. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of work on yourself to become that best version of yourself so that you attract it. And I know that the happier, healthier, and more whole you are, the more you're going to attract those things. It's an energy, and that's what we've been talking about the whole show, is an energy. People lie, energy doesn't lie. And when you're happy and you're being authentic to yourself and you're not betraying yourself, you will be shocked at how many people you start attracting that mirror your same energy. So I think it's very important it's great to know what you believe in and what your deal breakers are, but I also think that if you have such a rigid list of checklists, because, you know, we evolve every decade. We're totally different people every decade, and some people faster than that. But who you were 20 years ago, because you liked those things or didn't like those things, as Oscar was saying before, get out, try something new. I think that's a great idea. If you're going on a first date, ask them what's on their bucket list and go do something together that you have common interests. Go on a trip. Do some fun things that have a built-in icebreaker that help you work together as a team so that you can learn your partner's personality. And I think lists are great to a point. It's great to know what you want, But I think unless it goes against your core values and beliefs, I think the more open-minded you can be. I know from a matchmaker standpoint, my job is to stretch you as much as I can to get you the optimal amount of matches. But you have to do the work first, and it all starts with you. If you want to live your best life, it starts by going on a self-love journey, being true to yourself, being authentic, so that when you do meet the right person, you have the ability to be vulnerable, which is the key to building the trust and getting and staying in a healthy relationship. All right, guys, well, we have coming up the Cutting Edge with Al Roundtree. He's coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. We're super excited to have him on the show, have his own show this, and he's going to have a really good guest today. I can't wait for you. I'm going to let him announce it, but if you guys want more information about matchmaking, reach out to me, amberneal.com, and more information about Marridate, Houston's first and private only social club for couples. The goal is to cure the divorce rate, one couple at a time. We have our grand opening, and we're so excited about that. Marridate.com. We will be back tomorrow on the all-new Matchmaker Hotline. It is Tough Love Tuesdays. For more information, go to edgeradionetwork.com. You can watch us on Facebook, Edge Radio Network. You can rewatch it, share it, start a watch party. We appreciate the support. And that's going to be it. Thanks, Brianna, for being on the show today. Shout out to Oscar for also being on the show.
Had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And what's your social media, Brianna?
On Instagram, it's Brianna T. Craig. On Facebook, it's just Brianna Craig.
All right, guys. Well, that has been our show. We got to get out of here. We'll see you tomorrow on the all-new Matchmaker Hotline, 101.7 FM, 1540 AM on the all-new Edge Radio Network. See you tomorrow.
During that time, I was an adolescent, and another thing that I struggled with was this idea that my opinion didn't count, didn't matter. And I never forgot, I went to a college, it was in Westchester County, and it was a very affluent community. It was about 90% white. I was one of the few specks of pepper in a sea of salt, right? And I never forgot, there was this one professor. He was a priest. He had the collar that he wore all the time. He was in Catholic college. He had piercing blue eyes and this ruddy red complexion and snow white hair. And he had a grimace on his face that said, "I hate life and I want everybody to hate it with me." It was that kind of look. And he had the habit of choosing someone to humiliate once a day in his class. And this day, I saw his eyes lock in on me as I walked across the room. And he had a sneer on his face and he said, "I'm getting that one today." And there was a glass of water on that table. And what was interesting was this is an economic class. So the glass of water is sitting on the table. And he looks at me and he says, "Mr. Hines, is this glass of water half full or half empty?" So I said, "I can't answer the question." It's a simple question. Is it half full or half empty? I'm sorry, I can't answer the question. Look, this isn't rocket scientist, Mr. Hines. I need an answer. Is it half full or half empty? I said, "I can't answer the question." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because I don't know how that glass came to be at 50% capacity. You see, if it was an empty glass that you poured to 50% of its content, then it would be half full. On the other hand, if it was a full glass that you poured out half of its content, then it would be half empty. So until I know how that glass came to be at 50%, I can't answer the question." This man turned beet red. Redder than he was when he started. And he literally went, and bit himself, and that scared the heck out of me. He bit himself. And then he said, "Sit down." Now, I tell that story because in that moment, I realized that my reasoning and my opinion, it mattered. But let's fast forward. Fast forward 12 years later. I'm an adult, I'm sitting home, and I'm watching Johnny Carson, one of my favorite talk show hosts at the time. And in that moment, Johnny introduces Bill Cosby. Now this is before Bill Cosby was whatever you guys think he is now. That was when he was the Jell-O pudding guy, you know, Cliff Huxtable, right? And Johnny welcomes him to the stage, he sits down, and Bill says, I got a story to tell you about a college student. It's an interesting thing. He had a professor, and the professor said, is this glass of water half full or half full? And I heard my story from Bill Cosby being told to Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. And I'm like, whoa. And Johnny says, I've got to meet this college kid. If he's out there